Part two of the season for the Prototype Cup Germany, round 7 and race 8, races 7 and race 8, round 4 of this 6-round season. Hello everybody, welcome along to the Norisring, the Prototype Cup, returning here after a couple of years. So the car's currently out on the grid. You can see that the weather conditions are absolutely perfect for a Prototype Cup Germany. We saw them here a couple of years ago here at the Norisring. And they were very spectacular around the streets of Nuremberg. Valentino Catalano is the driver who stole the headlines this morning in qualifying, putting the number 11 car for Badischer Motorsport Club on pole position. The champion from 2024. He won it last year along with Marcus Pommer, and in a different car than what we are used to seeing him in. The man who has won 3 races this season, Danny Sufi, though, starts alongside him. He's already 31 points ahead of Max Anglard and Matis Plushkal in the championship. But Danny Sufi, Pavel Lefterov leading the way. Sven Bark and Maxim Dirks are third in the championship. The drivers on the grid in the glorious sunshine. It's great to be back at the Norisring. These cars look absolutely spectacular here around the streets of Nuremberg as we look at Danny Sufi just limbering himself up in the cockpit of the Conrad Motorsport car, getting ready to go. Jakob Erlbacher, good qualifying from him this morning, qualifying in 3rd place on the grid, and alongside him will be Riccardo Cirelli, the young charger who is very much in championship contention. So just to look at that championship, it's Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov who lead the way in the Drivers' Championship with 131 points. Max Anglard and Matis Plushkal are second with 100 points, so 31 points adrift, with Maxim Dirks and Sven Barth third with 47 points adrift with 84 points. So there is Maxim Dirks giving us the clenched fist in the Aust Motorsport prototype, the very unique livery of that car, and they were very much on the crest of a wave after the last round at the Norisring. We saw Maxim Dirks and Sven Barth take their first podium in the Prototype Cup Germany, and they did it again in the second race. They got 2 second places. And the 2 drivers are celebrating very much so as they got their first 2 podiums together. Apologies, we've had a couple of technical faults on the sound, but I think we found it just in time, because the sound of these cars firing into action, it makes the ground absolutely shake. These wonderful machines, the LMP3 cars, the prototypes, when the big engine, the Nissan engines fire into life, they're 5.6 litre V8s, the whole ground shakes. So when these cars were here at the Norisring a couple of years ago, they really did entertain, and it's been very much on the agenda to get them back here. It'll be their 2nd ever visit to the streets of Nuremberg. The terraces are absolutely packed with spectators, and they will have their breath taken away as these cars burst into life. They get started on the first of 2 formation laps here at the Norisring. It is a circuit that is 2.162 kilometers around. That equates to 1.343 miles. There are 5 turns, 4 to the left and 1 to the right, running in an anti-clockwise direction. Track limits are never an issue here. We call them self-regulating. You can see them there. It is a solid concrete wall that surrounds this track. If you get it wrong, your race is going to be over. These are roads that are used all year round by the public. So we've got a bit of pavement there, the concrete pavement. We've got the tarmac. There is a lot of bumps. There's some drain covers. There's a bit of everything, and it's a real challenge because these cars rely very much on ground effect. They really do not cope well with the bumps. So this is really testing the skills of all of the drivers as they race around this amazing street circuit. We're part of the DTM package this weekend, and what a great place to be as we look at Valentina Catalano start on pole position. Danny Sufi for Conrad Motorsport. Who can stop that man on row 2? Jakob Erlbacher and Riccardo Cirelli. We already mentioned him for BWT Muka Motorsport. On row 3 of the grid, Maxim Dirks took those 2 podiums last time out at the Norisring, and Max Angelard, another BWT Muka Motorsport, Aust and Muka on the same row. What legendary teams they are. Thomas Ambiel and Michael Herrick occupy the back row of the grid, row 4. And these cars that will be required to come in for a mandatory stop, and in the case of all bar one car for a driver change as well. We'll tell you more about that as this race unfolds, but let's get this thing going. The cars now running side by side up towards turn 4. This circuit, which is essentially 2 hairpins joined together by 2 straights with a chicane thrown in for good measure. Almost oval racing, not quite. Out of the Duxendijk turn into turn 5, which is just a kink. The safety car peels off into the pit lane. Part 2 of this 2025 season is about to get going. The clock is ticking. It is race 7 of a 12-race season, and we are go. Valentina Catalana, Danny Sufi. He's going to try and make a move on the outside into turn 1. He's got to get it slowed down. He's got to keep it out of the wall as well. He goes deep into the corner, but Valentina Catalana has it covered off. Danny Sufi dropping into that second place. Keep an eye on Jakob Erlbacher. Look at the cars bouncing around over the bumps of the Nuremberg street. Some great shots as they see how close to the wall they can get, extracting every bit of lap time. But Valentina Catalana, the 2024 champion, the defending champion in this wonderful series, now with the man who is very much on the ascendancy, monstering his every move. Danny Sufi, the only driver, along with Pavel Lefterov, to have won more than 1 race this season. And he's done that 3 times. A 3-times winner this season, Sufi and Lefterov. But Sufi at the moment looking a little bit vulnerable to Jakob Erlbacher. But having said that, dive bomb to the inside of Valentina Catalana. Catalana coming back on the inside. It's a drag race towards the Scholar S. This is fabulous stuff. Danny Sufi, he did that dive bomb. He couldn't quite get it slowed down. Catalana cutting back to the inside. Jakob Erlbacher making it 3 abreast. This is wonderful racing. Maxim Dirks in there as well. Jakob Erlbacher to the lead of the race. Into turn 4 we come. Catalana, Sufi still side by side. Maxim Dirks fancies getting involved. Also in there, Riccardo Cirelli as well. Look at this. Danny Sufi around turn 5 onto the pit straight. There's another drag race in towards turn 1. That's allowing Jakob Erlbacher to break clear. Into turn 1 they come. Erlbacher has that lead. Valentina Catalana, the pole sitter, doing all that he can to hold off Danny Sufi, the man on a mission. Maxim Dirks there, now having been passed by Riccardo Cirelli. So Cirelli moving his way forward. Behind them is Max Angelard, Thomas Ambiel and Michael Herrick. So this is a race that is 55 minutes long, plus 1 lap. As I mentioned at the start, there is a mandatory pit stop that will come. There will be a pit window that will open. And that pit stop may well change the entire complexion of the race, because not only do the drivers have to come in for a stop and a driver change, but each car has its own unique minimum pit stop time, and so that could change things dramatically. At the moment, though, I don't want to look away from the screen, because the fight for the last of the podium positions is compelling, as there's a big lockup from Mikael Herrick into the corner. Right, let's have another look at what happened there. So you can see Sufi dive bomb to the inside, couldn't quite get it slowed down. Catalana cutting back to the inside. Jakob Erlbacher says, fight amongst yourselves, I'm coming through. Exactly what he did while they were distracted with each other. Jakob Erlbacher just sailed on through the gap that then opened up. Valentina Catalana got a bit of a tank slapper on there, didn't he? So this was really dramatic stuff as he fought hard to keep control of the number 11 machine, but it projected Jakob Erlbacher, who I have to say has been looking very quick in all of the free practice and qualifying sessions. But keep an eye on Riccardo Cirelli. He's gone deep into turn one. Oh, there's the commentator's curse if ever you saw it. The 1, 2, 3 breaking clear. Riccardo Cirelli, look at the lookup from Jakob Erlbacher. Needs to keep his focus on what's in front, not what's behind, because Valentina Catalana, a hugely experienced driver now. He's very young, but he's certainly putting in the miles in various series around the world of prototype racing. Mega talented. He will know how to put the pressure onto Jakob Erlbacher. Danny Sufi, a real up-and-coming superstar, very much on the ascendancy. He and his co-driver Pavel Lefterov with that 31-point advantage in the championship. But what they need to do is just consistently pick up points as we look again at the lockup from Jakob Erlbacher. But Sufi and Lefterov really need to just get the points. It's not all about the race wins, although they've won 50% of all the races this season so far, and that's why they have that 31-point lead. Valentina Catalana, the defending champion, has not taken part in every race of the season, so he is a driver who maybe is starting a little bit on the back foot when it comes to defending that title. Listen to the roar of the cars. You can see the camera shaking, the suction as these cars suck the air out of the sky and they come past, and everything around it just vibrates and they bounce around. You can see how bumpy it is under braking into turn one. We saw it a couple of years ago when the cars made their debut here at the Norisring, the prototype cars, that it is very easy to lose it on the bumps. So we saw one car have a particularly sizable impact because the suction and the ground effect of the LMP3 chassis is broken whenever the cars go over a bump. At the moment, though, Jakob Erlbacher has it very much under control, but Valentina Catalana looking very racy. Did the hard work, putting it on pole position. The start of this race was very preoccupied with Danny Sufi, and maybe that is what allowed Jakob Erlbacher to sneak through and take the lead of the race. So there will be the pit window that will open during this race. It'll open when there is 33 minutes to go. That's the 22nd minute of the race. And it will remain open for 10 minutes. During that 10-minute window, every car will need to come in for a mandatory stop. Where there's a single driver, there will be no driver change, but everyone else will need to change to their co-drivers. Now, these cars and teams and drivers, there is a minimum pit stop time. It's 90 seconds from pit entry to pit exit. Excuse me. But on top of that 90-second minimum pit stop time, there are additional times that are added on depending on the FIA rating of the driver. So all the drivers have a rating. It'll be either bronze, silver or gold. Well, we only have bronze and silver drivers in this race, but depending on the driver combination will depend on how much extra time is added to that minimum pit stop time as we look again at this battle for the lead. lead. So a bronze and silver combination, i.e. Mikael Herrick and Alexander Christensen, will have an additional 10 seconds added on to their minimum pit stop time. A silver driver combination, as in Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov, will have an additional 20 seconds added on to their minimum pit stop time. So it means that there is a 10-second difference between the bronze and silver and the silver combinations. The solo bronze driver of Thomas Ambiel has no additional time added, so he will have a pit stop that is 20 seconds shorter than many of the cars around him, as Jakob Ölbacker goes deep into turn one. Once again, Valentina Catalano putting the pressure on, knowing exactly what he's doing, just trying to force Jakob Ölbacker into a mistake so that he can work his way through. In terms of the minimum pit stop times, there is also a success penalty, and Danny Sufi, along with Pavel Lefterov, will have an additional 6 seconds added to their pit stop as we look at that lockup from Jakob Ölbacker. That 6 seconds is added to the already 110 seconds pit stop time, and that is because they won last time out. There'll be an additional 4 seconds for Maxim Durex and Sven Bart on account of finishing second last time out, and an additional 2 seconds to Max Angelard and Matis Pluskul on account of finishing third place last time out. It all sounds very complicated, but it's a great way of leveling the field and giving the drivers who have less experience and have a lesser rating an opportunity to fight at the front. And it's at the front at the moment that we see Jakob Ölbacker with 0.4 of a second ahead of Valentina Catalana into the Dutsen Dyke turn. Once again, the two leading cars broken clear a little bit at Danny Sufi. He may not be too worried about that. This is a long race. He needs to look after the car, he needs to look after the tyres, because when the cars come in for their mandatory stop, there are no tyre changes. So whatever rubber is on those cars at the moment, unless they get a puncture, that's the rubber that has to last them all the way to the checkered flag. We continue to look at the lead duo. It is Jakob Ölbacker in the number 80 car, the driver who is running for Gebhard Intralogic Motorsport in the number 80, and Valentino Catalana in the Badischer Motorsport Club Duquesne. Two chassis in this. We've got Duquesne first and second, the Ligier in third place, and that is being driven by Danny Sufi. The Ligier JSP320. The Duquesne car is a Duquesne D08. These chassis, some of them have been superseded, and there's a new spec of LMP3 for 2025, but the ADAC, along with Creventic, who organised this wonderful championship, deciding to stick with the older technology, just making the most of it. It's a great series. Why mess with the combination? And it sounds wonderful with these monstrous engines that absolutely vibrate the floor when they come past. The race leader, the red and white, Jakob Ölbacker in the number 80, leading the way. Just behind Valentina Catalana. He's been playing musical chairs a bit this year. He's been in a couple of different seats in the Prototype Cup Series. And now to the inside, there is a gap. Jakob Ölbacker going deep into turn one. Valentina Catalana made that look rather easy. Maybe Jakob Ölbacker getting distracted, and suddenly Valentina Catalana resumes his position at the front of the race. We've only seen Jakob Ölbacker once this year. That was at Hockenheim, where we saw him take a couple of sixth places. But very, very competent. But Valentina Catalana maybe just keeping him a little bit distracted. Filling the mirrors. Here's a replay. It was a big gap on the inside. Jakob Ölbacker didn't really put up too much of a fight. Jakob's best ever finish in Prototype Cup Germany has been 3 fourth places. He got a fourth place at Assen in 23, also Nürburgring 23, and the Zandvoort last year. So fourth place is the best that he's managed. So still in a good position for a podium finish. But having led the race, I think that might be scant consolation for the driver of the number 80 machine. So Valentina Catalana, the hugely talented driver, jumps to the front of the pack once again. To remind you, he is the 2024 champion in Prototype Cup Germany. He is the championship leader in the IMSA LMP3. We've seen him in this year's Le Mans Cup. We've seen him in so many different things. Whatever he gets into, he's always winning, often seen on the podium. But he loves his roots, coming back to the Prototype Cup Germany. Remember him coming through the ranks of the Formula 4 Germany a few years ago, and now into the prototypes and very much on the ascendancy. And he's doing exactly that because he's now opened up a gap over Jakob Erlbacher. About a second opened up between the first and second place. Danny Soufi still very much in contact, but a couple of seconds back from them at the moment. A little puff of smoke under braking from Jakob Erlbacher. So he is going to have the same legs at pit stop as Valentina Catalana. That's a total of 110 seconds. So neither of them have any additional penalties on top of that. So that is going to be an absolute race with each other in the pit stops. Danny Soufi also with the 110 seconds plus the additional 6 seconds on account of the win last time out. And 6 seconds back from here is going to put him a long way back through the pack. So Danny Soufi will be trying to think of the bigger picture, as indeed will be the case for Pavel Lefterov, his co-driver. There we go, though, at the moment, before we head into the pit window, first, second and third, very much in the same shot. We're about 4.5 minutes away from the pit window opening. The fastest man in the race has been Jakob Erlbacher. He has a lap time of 49.490, which is very rapid. He scored that one on lap 11 of this race. But Valentina Catalana finding that group. Right, there you go. First, second, third. Looking down at the turn one. There is Riccardo Cirelli. Behind him, Maxim Dirks. He and Sven Bart, a great combination. The experience of Sven Bart, a driver that we've seen in GT3 racing for many years, and Maxim Dirks, another of the many up-and-coming superstars in the world of LMP3 prototype racing. So was delighted to not only get his first podium last time out, but also his second podium last time out. Those 2 second places at the Norisring in very tricky conditions. The race finished now. You can see that Danny Soufi and Pavel Lefterov, despite finishing in third place, would open up their championship lead over Max Anglard and Matis Pluskal. Max Anglard down in 6th place at the moment, but Sven Bart and Maxim Dirks would close in on them as well. But we've got a long way to go, and to remind you that Danny Soufi and Pavel Lefterov have that longer pit stop, 6 seconds longer, which is going to equate for quite a lot on a lap which has a lap time of 49 seconds. So that is going to relegate them, well, if it were to happen now, pretty well to the back of the pack. I get the feeling that Danny Soufi will be quite keen to stay out as long as possible when the pit window opens, to try and maximise his time out on track and maybe come in late in that 10-minute pit window. But who knows what the teams are planning and what might be going on. There you go, first, second and third. Catalano just braking ever clear, 2.5 seconds to the good of Jakob Erlbacher, and then about 1.6, make it 1.5 seconds back to Danny Soufi. Riccardo Cirelli is next, then Maxim Dirks, then Max Anglard, then Thomas Ambiel. Now, to mention him, he is going to have a pit stop time, and that is, wait for it, 20 seconds slower than those around him, and in fact 26 seconds slower than Danny Soufi and Pavel Lefterov. So keep an eye on the number 33 car, because he is going to get moved very much into the equation. He is a bronze-rated driver for Rinaldi Racing. He is a solo driver, and he has a much shorter pit stop time. So he's just, at the moment, getting to the pit window, and then may well be launched into the action. That's also the case for Mikael Herring, who will be handing the car over to Alexander Christensen, the number 1 Gebhard Intralogistics Motorsport Duquesne. He will hand it over to him. He has a minimum pit stop time that is 16 seconds slower than Danny Soufi. So he too will move up the order once the pit window has been and gone. And the pit window is approaching and will be here in about 3 minutes. When that arrives, that is when things may well change. At the moment, though, the status quo is as is. There you go. Race minute 32 is when the pit window will open. So when the clock strikes 33 to go, that is when the window will open. So we've got about 3.5, I had to do the maths there, 3.5 minutes before that happens. So at the moment, everybody holding station, but this is going to get very mixed up when that window opens. At the moment, the driver's out on track. This is not just about fighting each other, it's about fighting this circuit. It is so bumpy in places. It is an amazing circuit. It takes a bunch of volunteers, around 600 of them. It takes them about 10,000 man-hours to build this circuit over 2 weeks. Of course, the DTM very much the headline act here, but the likes of the prototypes are really getting to shine here in front of this big crowd as we look at a slow-mo in this afternoon sunshine of Danny Soufi coming around the corner. How close to the wall dare he get? Lockups there. Again, I'll remind you, no tyre changes are permitted during the pit stop. So if you flat spot the tyres, you may well get vibrations, and you're going to have to carry that all the way through to the checkered flag. The fastest lap of the race is now occupied by Valentino Catalano. That has happened a couple of laps ago, in fact 4 laps ago on lap 19. So Catalano really finding the pace, just turning the wick up on that car. We haven't even mentioned his co-driver, Oscar Tunyo, who will be jumping into the seat of that car once the pit sequence has finished. And Oscar Tunyo will be in the pits at the moment, limbering up, getting ready to take over the number 11 machine. Less than a minute until the pit window opens, and then it will be 10 minutes of strategy. Catalano has this under control. Look at that gap between first and second. He's really stretched it now. 4 seconds clear of Jakob Erlbacher. Out along the pit straight, one to go. Our race leader, the yellow and black, number 11, Valentino Catalano. Jakob Erlbacher in the red, white and black car. Danny Soufi in the green and black car. Jakob Erlbacher around turn 1, just looking down. There's Riccardo Ciurelli in the number 8 car. Maxim Dirks, amazing livery on the number 3 car. Right, we are 5 seconds away from the pit window opening. This is where the strategy is going to come into play. This is where the minimum pit stop times have the potential to turn this field on its head. Who is going to be the first to blink? Who is going to come in? Nobody at the moment, but the minimum pit stop times will be monitored. Even if they go below it by 1/100th of a second, they would still pick up a penalty. So the drivers will want to time the pit stops so that they are stationary for the absolute bare minimum, but they cannot go below the minimum pit stop time that is prescribed to each car. So this will have been calculated. The teams would have worked hard to work out how long it takes to get from their pit box to the end of the pit lane. So there, Valentina Catalana leading the way. The first to blink is Mikael Herrick in the #1 car. So handing over to Alexander Christensen. So Herrick will be stationary for 100 seconds, the minimum of 100 seconds in the pits. So in comes the Gebhardt Intralogistics Motorsport car in blue and yellow. No massive hurry here because plenty of time to get out. The new driver waiting and standing by. That's Alexander Christensen with his seat insert in hand. Of course, every driver has a different build. Right, next one in, Maxim Dirks. His work is done for today. Into the pits he comes. Sven Bart will be poised and ready. They have to wait until the car is stationary before the crew can come out. They can't work on the cars. There's Sven Bart waiting with the helmet on for Aust Motorsport. Maxim Dirks, proper top bloke. You couldn't wish for better results for him. He's out of the car, heads back to the garage. He will now watch. You get a good chance to see that unique livery. Wonderful stuff. Really, really spectacular on that car. Right, in is also the Alexander Christensen into the seat. Still waiting for the clock to tick down. Now the engine fires into life. Now I'm looking at that, and I believe that they may have had an issue there. The #1 car looks to me to have been in the pits maybe longer than it should have done. 100, I don't know, maybe it's just my dodgy math. So out of the pits they come, and out into the pit lane comes Christensen. It was 142 seconds while he was in the pit time. So I think that was a little bit longer than was prescribed. So we'll see where that all happens once the pit window is done and the pack sorts itself out. Meanwhile, Catalana continues in the lead. Look at the livery on that car. Really good stuff. And a nightmare to match if you bend the paintwork, but we won't worry about that at the moment. Maxim Dirks is done. Sven Bart is behind the wheel. Right, here's Max Angelard into the pits. The #18, the Maximilian Angelard for BWT Muka Motorsport. And limbering up in the wings will be Mattis Plushkal, the driver that we very much enjoyed seeing in ADAC GT4 Germany last year. This is something altogether different to the Mercedes that he was driving last year. This car with a similar livery, but a very different principle. The team get to work. Catalana continues on his way. Also in, Riccardo Cirelli. He's handing over to Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen, a driver who's had 3 podiums in the Prototype Cup Germany this year. Got a 3rd and a 2nd on debut. Also got a 3rd place at Hockenheim. Didn't have a best of luck at the Norisring last time out, but between them, Riccardo Cirelli and Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen putting the #8 car, the BWT Muka Motorsport Duqueine DO8, to good use. Still out on track at the moment. 50% of the cars have pitted or are pitting. The other 50% still running out on track. Valentina Catalana, right, Jakob Elbacker peels off into the pits, as does Danny Sufi. Right, this is going to be significant. Only 2 cars left to pit. I think Thomas Ambiel's leaving it till quite late in the pit window. Then he too will come in and aim to leapfrog the cars that are ahead of him. But at the moment, just keeping to the pit lane speed limit. In comes Danny Sufi. Pavel Lefterov rushes out, opens the door, helps his co-pilot out of the driver's seat, takes his insert, throw it to one side. Won't be needing that until tomorrow. Still out on track, Valentino Catalana. Thomas Ambiel moves up into 2nd place. As predicted, Catalana leaving it till later in the pit window. There's Danny Sufi, just helping Pavel Lefterov to get buckled in, passing over any information that he thinks might be pertinent. As the race leader continues out on track at the moment. The Number 80 car now being handed over to Jeremy Siffert. Yes, you recognise that surname, the grandson of the late, great Joe Siffert, here in Prototype Cup Germany, taking over from Jakob Ohlbacher. Really good to see him here in the Gebhard Intralogistics Motorsport Duquesne. We got there in the end. Jumping into the driving seat of that car, soon to rejoin this race. Catalano leads. We've got 4 minutes left until the pit window closes. You can see from your graphic the clock ticking down. They cannot get to the pit exit before the clock strikes 0. If they do, there will be a penalty incoming. Catalano at the moment in amongst the traffic. That is the car that had stopped earlier with Alexander Christensen at the wheel. At the moment, heading out along towards turn 4. But of course, Catalano will need to come in shortly. So the number 1 car very kindly stepping to one side, allowing him through. Catalano continues. He's still got plenty of time. He doesn't have to come in yet. If he decides not to, continues on another lap. So only 2 cars yet to pit. Thomas Ambiel in the number 33 car is the other one. He is currently not actually that far behind Valentina Catalana. He is currently just coming around the Scholar S. So the 33 car is a solo driver, not sharing with anybody. Here comes Valentina Catalana once again. How late is he going to leave it into the pit window? Up to the Dutzendijk turn once again. Just being very careful to extract everything out of the lap without putting too much at risk. Right, into the pits comes our race leader. Valentina Catalana has pulled the pin. So now Oscar Tunyo will be waiting for the yellow car to come into the pit box, and he will take over the driving seat of that car. He will inherit all the hard work that Valentina Catalana has done, having taken that car, having put it on pole position, having dropped down the order, but then come back to retake the lead. Now, out of the car gets Valentina Catalana. His work is done for today. He'll be back tomorrow in that car doing the second stint in that race. Oscar Tunyo, a driver that we have seen many times. We've got a yellow in turn 4. So what's happened there? We've got a car that has spun up in turn 4, is able to rejoin, and that is Thomas Ambiel. So the advantage that he was going to get in the pit stop has been minimized somewhat by the fact that he's turned it around. Now, was that while trying to come into the pits? You can see how easy it is for the back end of these cars. He was taking a wider line out of turn 4 because I think he was about to come into the pits. He's been able to regather it up. He has now made it into the pit lane. So he's got back in there before the pit window closed. But that would have been a Code Brown moment for Thomas Ambiel as the car went spinning, and a fairly lively moment also for the number 18 car, Matis Plushkal. That was who was coming along behind him. Anyway, no harm done. Maybe a bit of time lost, but remember, Thomas Ambiel has less time in the pits. Out on track at the moment. The number 80 car is the leading car that has pitted out on the Zeppelinstrasse. There is Valentina Catalano. Probably feeling reasonably confident at the moment. Here's Oscar Tunyo now out towards the pit exit and out to rejoin the track. Thomas Ambiel still there in the pits. Here comes the number 80 car with Jeremy Siffert at the wheel. So that will be up into second place at the moment. That spin for Thomas Ambiel certainly neutralising a lot of the advantage he might have had. He's still in the pits at the moment. The clock is still ticking down. And now he's able to get the thing rolling. So it's Oscar Tunyo who takes over the number 11 car and indeed the lead of the race. Into second place is Jeremy Siffert, the Swiss driver who made his debut in Prototype Cup Germany at Hockenheim, scored those 2 sixth places, and now Jeremy Siffert into that second place. Hard work here at the Norisring in the blazing sunshine. The air temperature is 30 degrees. The track temperature is 41.9. So pretty taxing on both the drivers and the cars. And there goes Jeremy Siffett. He's overcooked it. Now that is in turn one. Now can he avoid being collected by anybody? The back end just stepping out. Now has he kept the engine running? Can he get it going again? Because if he can't, we will end up with a safety car. Everybody seeing the yellow flags going into the corner. And also, to add insult to injury for Thomas Ambiel, under investigation for speeding in the pits. But this could change the whole complexion of this race, because Jeremy Siffett looks like he's lost the engine in that car. He's facing the traffic, and if he doesn't get it moving soon, we're going to see potentially a safety car, or at the very least a full course yellow. What is going to happen here? The yellows are still waving, so with 21.5 minutes remaining, that's pretty scary on a blind corner. I think everybody's now been round and seen that he is there. I think any kind of podium is certainly out of the question. Even finishing this race is starting to potentially look like a tall order. Can he get it going in the heat of the afternoon sun? You can see him in the cockpit, all on his own. He was into turn one, taking the line in, and then getting on the power maybe a little bit early. He was very high into the corner. On the back end of the car, just swapping around, and there he is facing the traffic, and all that hard work that Jakob Erlbacher did looks like to have come to nothing, as Jeremy Siffett, the grandson of the two-times Formula One winner Joe Siffett, has come from the Sprint Cup by Funyo, a very different kind of discipline. He was doing that in 23 and 24. Also featured in Porsche Sprint Cup Suisse over the winter, but nothing resembles this. At the moment, I think our race directors are probably hoping that he can get it running. Not as much as Oscar Tunyo is, because if we get a safety car, then that big gap, which is 11.2 seconds. Right, we've gone full course yellow. So the race director has decided we don't need a safety car. So everybody has now been requested to reduce their speed to no more than 80 kilometers an hour. So certainly any chance of a podium well and truly out of the window for that car. And the full course yellow, certainly at the moment, they're covering it off with that. Still got just under 20 minutes of this race remaining. And it could be that the full course yellow is upgraded to a safety car, although it looks like they've got the necessary towing equipment there, ready to drag that car to safety. So it looks as though there may have been a mechanical failure. That may have been the reason why the car turned around. Or it might just be that he lost the engine, and in this heat, getting it fired up again is proving to be more than the work of a moment. I have no news on the investigation for Thomas Ambiel. Having built it up and said that he was going to be launched to the top of the pack, he clearly had that spin just before his pit stop, and a difficult pit stop, and is now in 6th place and under investigation potentially for speeding. Well, good job done there by our race marshals. They do a sterling job, and they've managed to get that car removed without the need of a safety car. As we look at Oscar Tunyo, not having it all plain sailing either. A little lock-up there in the number 11 Badischer Motorsport Club car, the Decane D08 that he took over from Valentina Catalano. At the moment, 11.1 seconds clear of second place Pavel Lefterov, but I think that might, as we go back to green flag, might have come down a bit, because it certainly looked a lot less than that to me. He certainly has 3.8 seconds, so getting decelerated and then re-accelerating back up to speed. Every driver does that at a different level. So the lead, the Valentina Catalana and then Oscar Tunyo had built up, has been reduced somewhat, but still Pavel Lefterov, it might be one thing catching the race leader. Even if he can do that, he's still got to try and find a route past. Up ahead of them is Alexander Christensen in the number 1 car. So across the bumps we come once again. out of the Dutsen Dyke turn, sliding the car around. Of course, so easy to throw it all away. You can see that if the race finished now, Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov would lead Max Angelard and Matis Plushko by 40 points. As to the inside, Oscar Tunjo lapping the #1 car, and 54 points to Sven Bart and Maxim Dirks. So it would still be an extremely healthy lead as we start the second half of the season, and a penalty lap has been awarded to car 33, Thomas Ambiel, for speeding in the pit lane. So Thomas Ambiel will have to visit the penalty box, which is on the exit of turn 1, and he'll have to pass through that at no more than 60 kilometers an hour, the equivalent to adding about 5 seconds onto his lap time. So all the advantage that he had for that shorter pit stop coming to nothing because maybe a little bit hasty in the pit lane, and after that spin maybe just the focus not there. There's a confirmation of what is incoming for him. So a little bit of a depressing day, but having said that, he'll still pick up good points in this race. Oscar Tunjo, along with Valentina Catalana, the race leaders at the moment. Pavel Lefterov, just saw him locking up as he comes to lap the #1 car. Of course, one of the things that's so easy to do, particularly around a windy circuit like this, is to trip over a back marker, get it wrong under braking, and suddenly what looks like an absolute haul of points can come to nothing. And here, we call this track self-regulating, because those concrete walls, they don't shift, and if you get up against them, you are going to be coming to a premature end, well, your race is anyway. Out along the pit straight they come once more in towards turn 1. To the inside, and the blue flags will be waving at the #1 car. Finally, for Pavel Lefterov, he's able to sail through. But that's just allowed Oscar Tunjo up front to just open up the gap. You can see the gap evolution there from your graphic. And the message is that Oscar Tunjo, at the moment, has this race under control. But Pavel Lefterov, the driver that we have been watching many times in ADAC GT4 Germany, now with the very rapid Danny Sufi, has taken to this like the proverbial duck to water and is loving his time in Prototype Cup Germany, and is proving what a useful pilot he is. 2.8 seconds was the gap last time. 2.8 seconds is the gap this time. So the gap between first and second remaining constant. Feeling that maybe Pavel Lefterov is going to start winding in Oscar Tunjo before too long. There's first, then the back marker, then here is second. Then we look back to the #8 car of Matthias Bjerre-Jakobsen, who's taken over from Riccardo Cirelli. So done well in the pit stop sequence to come up to 3rd place. In 4th place, Sven Bart, who's taken over from Maxim Dirks. Some 3.9 seconds back from a podium position. So at the moment, with 14 minutes remaining, the 1, 2, 3 looking spaced out, but Pavel Lefterov really trying to throw caution to the wind, but Tunjo has responded. A 3.035 is the gap between first and second. In fact, the last lap by Oscar Tunjo was 0.2 quicker than Pavel Lefterov. It was a 49.7 from Tunjo, a 49.9 from Pavel Lefterov. Matthias Bjerre-Jakobsen continuing in the BWT Mucka Motorsport car. Riccardo Cirelli, his co-pilot, with a podium finish for 50% of the races so far this season. This could be another podium. Matthias Bjerre looking for his first ever win in the Prototype Cup Germany. Riccardo Cirelli, we saw last year, had a couple of first places at Hockenheim. So he has experienced the top step of the podium. Both these drivers, real up-and-coming talents. And that is the thing about the Prototype Cup Germany. It is a series that is aimed at promoting a lot of the young talent coming through the ranks, putting them against some of the more experienced people as well, getting them into the vibe of prototype racing. This is the 4th season of this championship. It was started in 2022, organised by the ADAC in partnership with Creventic. Another legendary name, Creventic. This, the second ever visit to Norisring for this championship. Last time out, when we were here in 2023, the winners were Gary Hauser and Marcus Pommer, the driver who has led the majority of this race, and Lawrence and Matthias Luton in the other race. So Marcus Pommer knows how to win around here, and he is the defending champion of Prototype Cup Germany. Oscar Tunyo continues to lead the way. And there he is, now closing in. Still, Pavel Lefterov, he's closed in, he's responded. 2.65 is the gap. 11.5 minutes remaining of this race. So time's starting to run out. What he'll want to do is close up to Oscar Tunyo and try and put the pressure on. You may notice a lot of the drivers taking very different lines around the streets of Nuremberg here, avoiding the bumps, trying to find the grip. Of course, the track that is used as public roads all year round, getting more and more rubber laid on it as this weekend progresses. So getting faster and faster up onto the pavement, the concrete pavement, then back out onto the tarmac. But as the rubber gets laid down, in theory, if we can keep the rain away, you'll see the track getting faster and faster. You can see the gap evolution that slowly Pavel Lefterov is closing in on Oscar Tunyo. But Tunyo won't be too worried about that at the moment. He may well just be controlling the pace. 2.7 seconds is a decent gap. Just keeping it all together, looking after the tyres, looking after the brakes, keeping the car out of the barrier. Some lovely slow-mo pictures in the late afternoon sunshine here at the Norisring. Of course, Pavel Lefterov running for the legendary Conrad Motorsport. Another legendary team there that Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen runs for. BWT Mucker Motorsport, Peter and Stefan Mucker, absolute legends, especially in the world of German motorsport. They extend their wisdom and their cars across many different classes and disciplines of motorsport. They've sported the BWT pink livery, and now this year also with the red livery as well. 9.5 minutes remaining of this race. Prototype Cup Germany 2025, race 7 of the 12-race season. Oscar Tunyo leading the way. He took over from Valentina Catalano. And but for the very beginning, have had their stamp of authority on this race the whole way. Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen in that third place. Made his LMP3 debut in the Prototype Winter Series this year. A couple of fourth places. It's come from the Formula 4 Nordic Championship. Also Formula 4 Denmark, but another driver has come out of karting. Another great look at that livery. Pretty sure, if I'm correct, that Maxim Dirks might have been involved in the creation of that livery himself, subject to confirmation. So, over the bumps here at the Norisring. We continue as the race reaches its final stages. The gap, 2.9. Oscar Tunyo not really looking vulnerable here, keeping it under control. Eight minutes remaining. Oscar Tunyo leads the way up to 3.1 seconds. Pavel Lefterov in that second place. He is 10 seconds clear of Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen, but they need to keep the concentration up inside the cars. It will be boiling hot. A one little slip of concentration and your race could be over. Still trying to extract the lap time, still pushing as much as they dare. Look how close to the wall Pavel Lefterov is still getting. He's not backing out of it. Can he close in that 3.1 second gap? Across the line they come. No, he can't. 2:10. So Oscar Tunjo putting his experience to good use to stretch his legs at the front. Matthias Pierre Jakobsen looks to be just a little bit too far back to do anything about the car in front. Sven Bart is 6.5 seconds back from Matthias Pierre Jakobsen. Mattis Plushko is just half a second back from Sven Bart. So we may well see a challenge from the pink number 18 machine at some point before this race is done. 6 3/4 minutes plus 1 lap of the Prototype Cup Germany. There is Oscar Tunjo, looking comfortable, looking in control. You see the cars bouncing along the pit straight they come. Past the Stein Tribune into turn 1 once again. They've already done 53 laps of this circuit, 53 laps of the 2.1 kilometers. So we're well clear of 100 kilometers already in this race. Learning the routes of endurance racing. There's been a lock-up into that corner, the smoke rising up in the late afternoon sunshine. We've lost one car. It was Jeremy Siffer, who saw the back end switching around. You think it may well have been a mechanical issue that robbed him of an opportunity to shine in the sunshine. Here we come again. The gap continues to be around 3.5 seconds. Oscar Tunjo not looking particularly vulnerable at the moment, but still needs to focus. 5.5 minutes. You can see that Pavel Lefterov is giving it everything, making the full effort to try and close in. Into the Scholar S once again. Some great slow-mos, and you can see the back end starting to slide a little bit. You can see how hard they're pushing, but also these tyres that have been on these cars for 50 minutes now, starting to wear a little bit thin. Of course, the slick rubber that these cars use, offering the grip as they heat up and melt to the surface. 3.9, so Tunjo continuing to stretch his legs at the front. Tunjo, who's had 3 wins in the Prototype Cup Germany. He got 3 wins in 2023, Hockenheim, Oschersleben and Nürburgring. Yet to win in 2025. So this will be a real treat for him if he can bring it home in this position at the moment. Ahead of Pavel Lefterov, Danny Sufi, Matthias Pierre Jakobsen, who shares with Riccardo Ciarelli. That's your 1, 2, 3 at the moment. 4 minutes remaining of this race. What's the gap looking like? Up to 4.3. So Lefterov doesn't look like he's got anything that he can bring to the table to challenge Oscar Tunjo at the front of this race. Matthias Pierre Jakobsen just holding station in that 3rd place. You can see the cars all fairly well spaced out, with the exception of Mattis Plushko in 5th place, closing in on 4th place, Sven Bart. So 3.5 minutes remaining of this, the first of 2 races this weekend for the Prototype Cup Germany here at the Norisring. Right, Thomas Ambiel in the number 33 car. Just ahead of him is the number 8 car, Matthias Pierre Jakobsen. So he's putting a lap on that car. 3 minutes remaining. It's not all over till the checkered flag falls. They've still got to get it there. They've got to get it across the line. Mattis Plushko Still closing in on Sven Bart. We know how good Matis Plushko is. We've seen him in GT4. We've seen him in Pro Cycling Cup Germany this year. Took a win along with Max Engelhardt at Hockenheim. Right, a load of smoke there. That's been a big lock-up for somebody. That's on turn 1, and that is Sven Bart, who is into the tyre barrier. So after all that hard work, what did I say about keeping it together? Now, is that mechanical or has he spun? I don't know if that was engine smoke or what, but there is an incident between car 3 and 18 under investigation, so that's not them, but the car that is now, yes it is, sorry, under investigation. So what happened there? Matis Plushko in the pink car. Let's see what happened. Sven Bart coming out of the corner, tried to pinch the number 18 car, tried to shut the door. Some would say that Matis Plushko had this under control. Right, red flags are out. They've clearly decided that I think there might be some barrier repairs that need to take place here. It was quite a big impact. So it's coming out of turn 1. You can see Sven Bart goes to shut the door on Matis Plushko. Two cars get together, and it's moved to tyre barrier. So I think that's why the red flag is out, and I don't think we're going to see this race restart. No, we're not. So a slightly anticlimactic finish, but Oscar Tunjo will take the win. Pavel Lefterov in second, Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen in third. So the stewards had taken a look at this, and Matis Plushko will argue that he had that place won. Sven Bart will argue that he was in front. It'll be down for the stewards to decide. But the timing screen is saying that Sven Bart will finish in 5th place. Pleased to say, no harm done to him. The car might need a little bit of work on it. I haven't damaged that lovely livery too much. But the red flags are flying, and that has been reported to the stewards. It won't affect the 1, 2, 3. And there, no doubt about the race winner. Oscar Tunjo at the wheel, Valentina Catalano, his co-driver. So into the pit lane they come. And we'll just wait for the rest of them to come. There is Valentina Catalana. There is Sven Bart climbing from that car. And I expect that the stewards will want to discuss that with him and with Matis Plushko. But no doubt about our race winner. How's that? Valentina Catalano having to push the car into Parc Ferme. And we will hopefully see them on the podium in just a few seconds. But valuable points for Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov. And valuable points for Riccardo Ciurelli and Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen. Well, I don't know. Did they stop the car in the wrong place? Don't drop your headphones. Right, away we go. And there's smoke coming from the car. They'll probably try to cool it down as well. I think that Oscar Tunjo may well have not quite brought the car back to where it needed to be. I'm sure that's not an issue. You can see how hot that car is. The crew at Badischer Motorsport Club, who present that car, working hard. Late afternoon workout. Oh, finally we got a bit of engine noise, I think, and a bit of smoke coming from it. I think they could do with getting some coolers, because I think that car may well, I think the brakes were starting to get a little bit overheated. The smoke was starting to go a little bit black. I was worrying about that. There's a hand signal from Oscar Tunjo. I don't know if that was intended to anybody. I'm sure it wasn't. We're going to get the cars behind the wall. I hope we're going to see them on the podium, TBC. Always a bit unpredictable here at the Norisring. And Sven Bart will not have liked that. He and Maxim Dirks did all that hard work. They might need that spare front panel for that car. Nice to see it's been colour matched already. Let's have another look here. So Sven Bart had the line, and then he went across to pinch Matis Plushko. Plushko wasn't going to back out of it. And into the tyre barrier went Sven Bart. Matis Plushko will argue he had that place won, while it was front wheel to rear wheel. I've got Dave Richardson sat next to me. And great to have him here this weekend guesting. Are you shaking your head there, Dave?
Well, you say front wheel to back wheel, you're right there. I mean, you know, in fairness, there's a blooming concrete wall there, isn't there? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, do you know what? It's why I love talking about motor racing and not making decisions.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't want that for all the tea in China, and I like tea.
Don't we know it? I did race stewarding once. I'll never do it again. I used to be...
Did you?
Yes, I did. For a car that was supposedly well disciplined and making decisions, was the place one, was it not? I don't look back on those days with fondness, and the stewards are going to have to talk to the drivers, I expect.
Thing is, with you know, we talk a lot in sport about VAR. Don't need it here. Got lots of screens, haven't we?
Yes, too many, some would say. Valentina Catalano, Oscar Turnio taking the win ahead of Danny Sufi, Pavel Lefterov, Riccardo Cirelli and Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen. That's your 1, 2, 3. Maxim Dirk Sven Bart, despite that moment, finishing in 4th, TBC. Max Angelard and Matis Plushkul in 5th, again, TBC. Thomas Ambiel might be rubbing his hands together here in 6th, ahead of Mikael Herrick and Alexander Christensen. Jakob Elbecker and Jeremy Siffett were the non-finishers after that moment where we saw Jeremy Siffett pointing in the wrong direction on turn 1. But as always, entertainment here at the Norisring. So we look some nice slow-mos of Matthias, that's not Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov, that's Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen and Riccardo Cirelli. I predict that next up we're going to see Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov. Let's go green and black with the livery. There we go. As if by magic. Car number 2 finishing in position number 2, but importantly for them, extending their lead at the top of the championship. But it was a dominant performance, really, apart from those opening couple of laps. Nobody could live with Valentina Catalana and Oscar Turnio. Really dialed in, really dominant. It is a victory in the Badischer Motorsport Club Duquesne DO8 for Oscar Turnio and Valentina Catalano. So a slightly anticlimactic finish to the race as the Sven Bart, Maxim Dirk's car is taken back to the pitch to be worked on, ready for tomorrow. And Sven just supervising that. They were euphoric with their 2 second places at the Lausitz Ring, so real shame to see a bit of a bump down to earth there. But the race stewards will get involved and they will make their decisions. We'll let you know. The tyre barriers do a good job actually in that they slow the car down. They don't do that much damage, we'd like to think, to the cars. They do absorb a lot of the energy, and they will be dragged back into place because we've got a GT4 race coming up in a few moments as we look along the pit lane and we just wait for the podium for these drivers in the glorious sunshine. And it's at this moment that we do give a shout out to the 600 or so volunteers who've put in around 10,000 hours. Oh, there is a legend, Franz Conrad.
You know what? I have known Franz Conrad for years and years and years.
Oh, you name dropper.
And irritatingly, he never, ever ages or changes.
Yeah, I think it must be his moisturiser. We'll have to go and have a word with him there.
Is it me or is it moist?
Yeah, it's you. Right, so it's Franz Conrad.
He doesn't. Look.
I was about to shout out the volunteers who built this circuit, but
yeah,
lost the moment.
Fair play to them.
Yeah,
no, thank you very much.
10,000 man-hours building this place just for us to test it. There's Riccardo Cirelli, and he's a real talented driver, he is. And next to him, that's Matthias Bjerre-Jacobsen. But there is Pavel Lefterov in the black and white, Danny Sufi, the shorter of the two, the driver from the USA, who really loves his time here in the Prototype Cup Germany. I say he's from the USA. I believe he's living in Dortmund at the moment, so a little less of a distance to have to commute.
Can I give you a little bit of interesting facts for a dinner party, which is quite boring?
Go on then.
That's the airport code for Dortmund is DTM.
Oh, that's very good. What airport is PCG? Because that'd be Prototype Cup Germany. I mean, we are on the DTM weekend, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You can see the concrete steps in the background. It's not that nobody's here. It's just the fact they're rebuilding a large section of this. It's going to take them a few years. So the actual middle section of the pit straight doesn't have any spectators on this year, but the ADAC have erected a number of grandstands in other places around the circuit.
It didn't grow up, it got built.
It did get built indeed. Can't say anything around here. Right, here we go. Drivers receiving congratulations. There's Toby Shimon in the background.
Toby, how nice to see you. He's someone that does age.
Yeah. Well, good luck having a word with him later.
That,
he really would as well. He'll sit you down.
Yeah.
I will remind you, he does ice hockey. He probably owns a hockey stick. There's Oscar Tuño in white. Great driver he is, from Colombia.
Okay.
And there is Valentina Catalana. I keep extolling the virtues of these two drivers, but Catalana, a mega talent, and IMSA have discovered the talent of Valentina Catalana. He doesn't forget his roots. He comes back to Germany. Matthias Bier-Jakobsen on the left, Riccardo Cirelli on the right. And they are just having a chat about what has happened and what hasn't happened. Some valuable points for them. There doesn't seem to be any hurry to get this podium underway, does there?
All those on the left, what bam boogie. All those on the right, boogaloo. They're getting ready, aren't they?
More 70s song references
80s.
can be seen. 80s.
80s, I'll have you know, the legendary Matt Bianco. Come on.
Yeah, of course.
Get together.
Yeah. We had Gene Chandler from the 70s yesterday. Anyway, Carol.
You were mentioning IMSA, which, of course, is my neck of the woods in terms of the time I spend across the pond. And to be recognised by IMSA, do you know what I mean? Fair play, Brian.
Yeah, and a winner over there as well in their LMP3 category. Right, here we go. The dulcet tones of Toby Shimon, the young-looking, I'll have that on record. To the third step of the podium, Matthias Bier-Jakobsen, Riccardo Cirelli. Danny Sufi and Pavel Lefterov. They won't be disappointed because their championship lead continues to be extended. Sporting the Michelin hats for the Michelin tyres that support this wonderful series. But to the top step of the podium, Valentino Catalano and Oscar Tuño. For Valentino Catalano, that will be his 5th ever win in this series. For Oscar Tuño, that will be his 4th ever win in this series. I think we might have a representative from the team as well, as Franz Conrad looks on. Oh, and the winner in the trophy category as well. And that is Thomas Ambiel. And now we have the representative from the team, from Badische Motorsport Club. So, now it's time for the national anthem. So, national anthem done. And what have you seen that I haven't?
Not at all. I was waiting for Dr. Dieter Nörschel, the ADAC Executive Board member that's making the trophy presentations. No O on the end of trophy as to our race winners, and congratulating, of course, all those that have made it to the podium, which is the place you want to be. And Guido Kutsera, the managing director of DECRA, who've got a huge presence here at the Norisring, it has to be said. If you're in the paddock, you kind of can't miss the DECRA livery.
Oliver Weissenberger, ADAC Executive Board. There he is, presenting the other trophies.
We're not done yet, though.
No. The Trofeos and the Coppers are being presented. There we go.
There you go.
As this for the team, No? Oh, so...
Double bubble, isn't it?
Yeah, so junior win as well. I'll tell you what, you need a wheelbarrow to get all these trophies home. There's so many of them they're handing out. It's great. It really is. So Valentina Catalana winning in the junior category as well. In the trophy category, Thomas Ambiel, a mixed race for him. Did spend a little bit of time pointing in the wrong direction. Also incurred the wrath of the stewards. So to finish on the podium, that's not bad going. And a team trophy as well. And the Badischer Motorsport Club, who prepare that car.
We'll need a wide lens for that podium photograph.
We will. Lots of silverware as well, or trophies anyway. So good bit is, if you enjoyed that, we get to do it all again tomorrow. Part 2 of the season is well and truly underway. That was race 7 of a 12-race season. Thanks for that. Race 8 coming up tomorrow. So we will get to do it all again. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be dramatic. At the moment, the champagne celebrations will start, but soon our focus will turn to race 8 of the season, which will come tomorrow here. We'll see you again at the Norisring.